When the security guard saw her through the glass doors of Gainbridge Fieldhouse, his radio crackled with urgency. As thousands of fans poured past her into the sold-out game, a 9-year-old girl with bunches wearing a faded Caitlin Clark jersey pressed her tiny face against the chilly arena entrance. With tears in her eyes, she held a handmade poster in one hand and a crumpled $20 in the other, realizing that her birthday money was insufficient to purchase a ticket to see her hero perform. How can a child's unadulterated passion for a game be destroyed by something as basic as not having enough money in her pocket in a society where we spend hundreds of dollars on entertainment without second thought? What you're going to learn will serve as a reminder that often the most significant moments in sports occur not during the actual game but rather in the quiet areas outside the arena, where dreams either die or manage to persevere in the face of overwhelming odds. Tell me where you're watching today in the comments section before we get started on this amazing tale. Click like and subscribe for more heartwarming stories that will rekindle your faith in human decency if you believe in the power of compassion and the magic that occurs when someone refuses to let a child's aspirations be dashed by circumstances. Let's now discuss what actually transpired on that April evening that altered everything. As she usually did for home games, Caitlin had arrived at the arena 3 hours prior to tip-off. She was preoccupied about the impending game against the Connecticut Sun and the potential consequences for the playoffs. As she passed through the player's door, she could hear the enthusiastic conversation of early arriving spectators, their voices blending with the far-off sound of vendors setting up their stalls. The April air was fresh with the promise of spring. However, when she passed the main entrance on her way to the locker room, she noticed something through the glass doors: the young child standing by herself in the middle of the group of people. The vibrant excitement of game day overwhelmed her petite body. Caitlin was most impressed not only by the child's size, but also by the way she stayed motionless while everyone else moved purposefully, like a tiny island of doubt in a sea of self-assured ticket holders. Emma Rodriguez was the girl's name, but Caitlin wouldn't find out until much later. She was 9 years old, lived in a tiny apartment with her single mother 15 minutes from Indianapolis downtown, and had been fantasizing for more than 2 years of watching Caitlin perform live. In order to keep food on the table and a roof over their heads, her mother, Maria, worked multiple shifts as a hospital janitor, leaving little money for pleasures like basketball tickets. However, no one was aware that Emma had been saving every penny she could find for 6 months, gathering coins from couch cushions, saving her lunch money when she could not stand to go hungry, and even doing additional work for neighbors to occasionally make a few bucks. The $20 cash she held symbolized months of perseverance and sacrifice, a 9-year-old's comprehension of what it meant to work towards a goal. Emma had persuaded herself that Heroes games couldn't possibly cost more than $20, which would be sufficient to get a ticket. With her mother's grudging approval, she walked to the arena with her homemade poster that said, "Caitlin Clark makes me believe I can do anything," in careful crayon letters that had taken her 3 tries to get right. She also promised to return home by 8 o'clock. When she went to the box office and discovered that the cheapest seats were $65, the reality of ticket pricing struck her like a physical blow. In the hopes that someone might have an extra ticket they didn't need or that a miracle would occur and she would find a way inside, she had spent 20 minutes watching families pass by with their tickets. Caitlin's heart ached as she saw the young girl's shoulders fall in disappointment as she watched this event play out through the glass doors. She saw something in Emma's stance that brought back memories of her own early years when ambitions seemed unattainable. The security officer, Robert, a middle-aged man who had worked at the arena for 12 years, approached Emma with the type of mild authority that comes from years of dealing with disappointed fans when the difference between wanting something and being able to have it felt insurmountable. He whispered, "Sweetheart, you can't stand here without a ticket. I apologize, but you must move on." Emma's eyes were trying so hard not to tear as she glanced up at him. Her tiny palm was still gripping the $20 cash as if it could somehow become anything more valuable. She muttered, "I have money. I kept it for several months. I simply was unaware of how much it cost." Emma was unaware, however, that someone who had the ability to transform her disappointment into the most amazing night of her youth was listening in on her private talk with the security guard. Pushing through the arena doors, Caitlin headed straight for Emma and the security guy. Fans in the vicinity were immediately drawn to her presence, taking out their phones and whispering enthusiastically. However, Caitlin's entire attention was focused on the young child, who gazed up at her with an astonishing mix of hope and skepticism. "Hi there," Caitlin murmured, bending down to meet Emma's gaze. "I'm Caitlin. What's your name?" "Emma," the young child answered, scarcely raising her voice above a whisper. "It's unbelievable that you are actually here. It's unbelievable that you are speaking to me. With a kind and sincere voice, Caitlin said, I saw you standing out here and I was wondering if you'd like to be my special guest for tonight's game. I think there's a really good seat with your name on it. The security guard's eyes grew wide with shock, but he soon moved aside to give them room after realizing that he was seeing something remarkable. Emma was unable to comprehend what was happening as she looked at Caitlin in utter shock. Her tiny brain was attempting to comprehend that her hero was not only conversing with her, but also extending an invitation to participate in the game. Emma held up her crumpled cash and exclaimed, "But I only have $20, with a candor that only kids have. You know what?" In response, Caitlin took the $20 bill tenderly and folded it back into Emma's hand. "You retain that cash. It is worth more than the cost of a ticket because you worked so hard to earn it. Since you are my guest tonight, everything will be taken care of." You can see that sometimes the most powerful acts of kindness occur because someone recognizes a part of themselves in another person's struggle and chooses to respond with their heart rather than their mind, rather than because they have a plan or a publicity strategy. Everyone nearby was taken aback by what transpired next, even the security guards, who had been at the arena for years and had never witnessed anything like it. Emma wasn't merely given a ticket by Caitlin. She personally escorted her inside, gave her an introduction to the arena personnel, and ensured that she was seated as comfortably as possible. Not in the nosebleeds, where her $20 may have bought her, but courtside, where she could see every move, every facial expression, and every second of the game she had always wanted to see. The true thrill, however, occurred when Caitlin took Emma into the locker room prior to the game and introduced her to her teammates as "my buddy Emma," who put in more effort than any of us to get here tonight. Emma was quickly embraced by the players, who signed her poster, took pictures with her, and treated her as a VIP visitor deserving of their respect and attention rather than as a charity case. Emma saw her heroes practice their shots just steps away from her during the pre-game warm-up, her eyes bright with amazement. During warm-ups, Caitlin made a very challenging three-pointer. She turned and pointed directly at Emma, who applauded so loudly her hands hurt, her face beaming with happiness that spread to everyone around her. It wasn't the final score or the statistics that would go into the record books that made the game amazing. Every time Caitlin made a fantastic move, she would turn to Emma and grin, forging a bond that went beyond the typical fan-player dynamic. Emma's enthusiasm reminded everyone in the arena why they had initially fell in love with basketball. She yelled louder than everyone else in the arena, her voice somehow overpowering the roar of the crowd. Emma was brought onto the court by Caitlin for a special presentation during halftime. She gave Emma a basketball, an autographed jersey, and, above all, the assurance that she will always be welcome at Fever Games in front of 18,000 spectators. That her passion for basketball and her will to follow her goals will always be appreciated and honored. However, nobody anticipated Emma's generosity towards Caitlin and the organization as a whole. Everyone was reminded of the original reason they played basketball by her unadulterated happiness, contagious enthusiasm, and sincere appreciation for every second of the event. She started attending games on a regular basis as a true member of the Fever family who brought vitality and positivity to every event, rather than as a mascot or a marketing stunt. Their meeting story went viral on social media, but it wasn't the result of any publicity or marketing initiatives. It spread because people saw something genuine and lovely in Caitlin's decision to turn a child's despair into delight without hesitation or calculation. Emma was doing well in her own youth basketball league 6 months later. Under the right guidance and with the right tools that Caitlin had assisted in providing, her abilities were swiftly developing. More significantly, though, she had discovered that dreams don't always fulfill our expectations. Occasionally, they do so in ways that are even better than we could have predicted. How is it possible that a 9-year-old child with $20 in a handmade poster could impart the true meaning of hope and resilience to a whole arena? Emma Rodriguez demonstrated to everyone who saw her story that the size of your bank account has no bearing on the size of your dreams. That sometimes the most significant successes occur when someone in a position of authority decides to utilize it to help someone in need, and that tenacity and passion can sometimes be more precious than money. Emma, now 10 years old, continues to attend Fever Games as Caitlin's special guest and has grown into a strong supporter of ensuring that all kids, regardless of their family's financial circumstances, have access to athletics. She talks at youth events about the value of pursuing your goals despite seemingly insurmountable challenges. Additionally, children who identify with her tale find resonance in her message. This narrative serves as a reminder that the most poignant moments in sports frequently occur in the quiet moments when someone decides to notice a child suffering and take action rather than during the actual game. It pushes us to bear in mind that there are real individuals with real goals who should be respected and encouraged behind every ticket price, entrance barrier, and hindrance to happiness. The relationship between Caitlin and Emma continues to motivate others, demonstrating that sometimes the most significant bonds are formed through shared humanity and the understanding that every child's goals count, regardless of their circumstances, rather than via shared success or accomplishment. Their partnership serves as a reminder that great winners are defined not only by their achievements on the court, but also by the way they use their position to give the next generation the chance to dream as big as they do.